Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are going to explore a small but very interesting piece of Australian coin history, the 1978 Australia 5-cent coin in fine condition, and we will also look at its current market value in dollars, along with its background, composition, collector demand, and useful tips for anyone interested in coin collecting. When we talk about the 1978 Australia 5-cent coin, we are actually looking at one of the early decimal coins of modern Australia. Australia introduced its decimal currency system in 1966, and the 5-cent coin replaced the old sixpence. By 1978, the design was already familiar to the public, but it still carried strong importance in everyday transactions. The coin features the echidna, one of Australia's unique native animals, designed by Stuart Devlin, which has remained one of the most recognizable coin designs in the country. In fine condition, the 1978 coin usually shows moderate wear from circulation, but the design is still clear, especially the spines of the echidna and the rim details, which collectors pay close attention to. The background and composition of this coin are also quite interesting. The 5-cent coin is made from cupronickel, which is a mix of copper and nickel. This gives the coin its silver-like appearance and makes it durable for long-term circulation. The standard weight is around and its size is small compared to many other coins, which is why it often goes unnoticed in everyday life. However, for collectors, this simple-looking coin carries historical and numismatic value, especially when found in better-than-average condition, or from specific years like 1978. Now, when we talk about collector demand, the 1978 Australian 5-cent coin is considered a common date coin, meaning it was produced in large numbers. Because of this, it is not rare in general circulation. However, collectors still show interest in it for completing year sets of Australian decimal coins. People who build full collections of 5-cent coins from different years often look for clean examples from the late 1970s, including 1978. In fine condition, it becomes more appealing because many coins from that era are now heavily worn, so finding a clearer example adds a bit of value and satisfaction to a collection. Coming to the most important question, the current market value of the 1978 Australia 5-cent coin in fine condition is generally modest. In most cases, it ranges from around $1,030,000 to $150,000 Australian dollar, depending on the exact condition and where it is sold. In some collector markets or online listings, a nicely preserved fine example might reach slightly higher, especially if sold as part of a set or to a beginner collector who is building a full run of dates. However, it is important to understand that this coin's value is more historical and educational rather than high monetary investment. Its real worth lies in its place in Australian currency history rather than rarity or precious metal content. For collectors, there are some useful tips when handling coins, like the 1978 Australian 5-cent. It is always better to store coins in a dry and safe environment to prevent corrosion or dulling of the surface. Even though cupronickel is durable, long exposure to moisture or rough handling can reduce its appearance and collector appeal. Another important tip is to avoid cleaning old coins aggressively, because cleaning can actually reduce their value. Collectors usually prefer natural surfaces, even if the coin is slightly worn, rather than polished or scratched surfaces. Keeping coins in albums or protective holders also helps maintain their condition over time. In conclusion, the 1978 Australia 5-cent coin in fine condition may not be a rare or highly valuable coin in terms of price, but it holds a meaningful place in Australian numismatic history. It represents the early decades of decimal currency and features one of the most iconic animal designs in Australian coinage. For collectors and enthusiasts, it is a small but important piece that connects to a larger story of national currency development. Its value today is modest in dollars, but its importance in a collection can be much greater, especially for those who appreciate history, design, and the joy of completing a full set of coins. Next up, today, we are taking a closer look at a small but interesting piece of Australian currency history, the Australia 5-cent coin from the year 2000, especially in very fine condition, and what it might be worth in today's market in dollars. When we talk about Australian coinage, the 5 cents piece has always held a special place as one of the smallest denominations still in circulation. The year 2000 was an important period for Australia because the country was experiencing a stable and modern economy, and the Royal Australian Mint was producing coins in large quantities to support everyday transactions. The 5 cents coin from this year was not made as a rare collectible at the time, but over the years, coins naturally gain attention from collectors depending on their condition, age, and survival rate. In terms of condition, a very fine grade means the coin has seen normal circulation, but still retains clear details in its design. You can still see this portrait of Queen Elizabeth II clearly, along with readable inscriptions and a visible echidna design on the reverse side. There may be light wear from handling, but overall, it remains attractive and collectible. Condition plays a very important role in determining value, and even small differences in wear can influence collector interest. Now, looking at the background and composition of the coin, the Australia 5 cents coin is made from cupronickel, a durable alloy of copper and nickel. This composition gives it a silvery appearance and makes it resistant to corrosion and long-term wear. The coin has a reeded edge and a standard weight of around with a diameter of. The design featuring the echidna, one of Australia's unique native animals, was created by Stuart Devlin, a well-known designer responsible for many Australian decimal coins. This simple yet meaningful design has helped the coin remain recognizable and appreciated by collectors worldwide. When it comes to collector demand, the 2000 Australian 5 cents coin is generally considered a common date coin. Because millions were minted, it is not rare in circulation. However, collectors often seek coins in better than average condition, especially those that have been well preserved or come from uncirculated sets. Some collectors also enjoy building complete date collections of Australian decimal coins, which keeps steady demand alive, even for common years like 2000. The interest is more focused on quality rather than rarity in this case. In today's market value, the Australia 5 cents 2000 coin in very fine condition typically remains close to its for most general buyers. However, in collector markets or online auctions, it can sometimes sell for slightly more, usually in the range of a few cents up to around $245,000 or $275,000, depending on demand, packaging, and presentation. If the coin is part of a mint set or in uncirculated condition, the value can be a little higher, but in very fine circulated condition, it remains mostly an entry-level collectible rather than a high-value item. Its true worth often lies more in completing collections rather than in high resale price. For collectors, there are still some useful tips to keep in mind. It is always a good idea to store coins in a dry and safe environment, ideally in coin holders or albums, to prevent scratches and further wear. Handling coins carefully by the edges helps preserve their condition over time. Collectors who focus on Australian decimal coins often find value in collecting full sets by year, as this can make even common coins more meaningful as part of a complete collection. Patience is also important, as the real enjoyment often comes from building a collection gradually, rather than focusing only on immediate profit. In conclusion, the Australia 5 cents coin from the year 2000 in very fine condition is a simple yet interesting piece of modern Australian currency history. While it may not carry a high market value, it still holds collectible appeal for those who appreciate coin collecting and the story behind everyday money. Its design, durability, and place in Australia's decimal system make it a nice addition to any beginner or general collection. Sometimes the real value of a coin is not just in dollars, but in the history and connection it represents over time. Next up, today we are going to talk about a very interesting piece of modern Australian numismatic history, the Australia 5 cents coin from 1968 in very fine condition, and what its real market value looks like in today's dollar terms. Even though it is a small denomination coin, it carries a lot of history, collector interest, and charm that makes it worth discussing in detail. The journey of this coin begins in the mid-1960s, when Australia made a major shift in its currency system. In 1966, Australia officially decimalised its currency, moving away from the old pounds, shillings, and pence system to dollars and cents. This was a huge national change, and it marked a new financial era for the country Australia. The 5-cent coin became one of the foundational denominations of this new system, and the 1968 issue is among the early production years that helped establish everyday cash circulation across the nation. The 1968 Australia 5 cents coin was produced under the authority of the National Minting System, now known as the Royal Australian Mint. These early decimal coins were designed to be practical, durable, and easy to use in daily transactions. The coin itself features the iconic echidna on the reverse side, a design created by Stuart Devlin, who was responsible for many of Australia's early decimal coin designs. On the obverse side, the coin features Queen Elizabeth II, reflecting Australia's status within the Commonwealth during that period. When we talk about this condition of a 1968 Australian 5-cent coin, especially in very fine condition, we are referring to a coin that has clearly been circulated but still retains strong details. In this grade, the echidna design is still visible and defined, although some of the finer textures may be slightly worn. The Queen's portrait is still clear, and the lettering remains readable without heavy damage. This is important because condition plays a major role in determining value, even for coins that are not considered rare. Looking at the background and composition of this coin, the 1968 Australian 5-cent piece is made from cupronickel, which is a mixture of copper and nickel. This combination was chosen because it is strong, resistant to corrosion, and suitable for mass circulation coins. The coin has a silver-like appearance, even though it contains no precious metals like silver or gold. Its size is small and its weight is light, making it convenient for everyday transactions during the early years of decimal currency in Australia. Now, when it comes to collector demand, the 1968 Australian 5-cent coin holds moderate interest. It is not considered extremely rare, but it is still part of the early decimal series, which always attracts attention from collectors who specialize in Australian coinage history. Many collectors enjoy building complete year sets. Demand remains steady, especially among beginner and intermediate collectors who are trying to complete historical sets, rather than chase rare error coins or high-value specimens. In the current market, the value of a 1968 Australia 5-cent coin in very fine condition is generally modest. Most examples in VF grade typically sell in the range of around $130,000 to $150,000 US, depending on the buyer, seller, and overall eye appeal of the coin. In Australian dollars, it is usually a similar low-value range. Even in slightly better than average circulated condition, the price does not rise dramatically because the coin is still relatively common in circulation finds and bulk collections. However, uncirculated examples or coins with mint state quality can reach higher values, sometimes around $175,000 to $88,000 or slightly more if they are exceptionally well preserved. It is important to understand that while this coin may not bring high financial returns, its true value often lies in historical appreciation and collection building. Many collectors do not focus only on price, but also on completing sets and preserving pieces of monetary history. Holding a coin from the early years of decimal currency in Australia connects you directly to a major transformation in the country's financial system, which is something many enthusiasts find meaningful. For collectors who are interested in coins like this, there are a few useful tips to keep in mind. First, always pay attention to condition. Even small differences in wear can affect long-term value and desirability. Storing coins in a dry, protective environment can help preserve their condition over time. Second, try to collect coins as part of a series rather than individually, because complete sets often have more appeal and sometimes better resale interest. Third, be patient with value expectations. Coins like the Nina 68 5-cent piece are more about steady collecting interest than rapid price increases. It is also wise to learn how to identify different grades properly. Many new collectors assume that all old coins are valuable, but in reality, grading standards play a major role in determining price. A very fine coin is respectable, but not rare. And understanding this helps set realistic expectations while building a collection. In conclusion, The Australia 5 cents 1968 coin in very fine condition is a fascinating piece of early decimal history. While its market value today remains relatively low, usually just a few dollars, its importance lies in its role in the transformation of Australian currency and its place in collectible history. It represents a time of change, modernization, and national identity through coin design. For collectors, it is a steady and reliable piece to include in a set, and for history lovers, it is a small but meaningful artifact of Australia's financial evolution. Over time, coins like this continue to remind us that even everyday currency can carry a story worth preserving and appreciating.